Ooh, ooh, ooh. There's only one of you, so tell us your story like only you do. We're on the same team of dreamers, a happy, scrappy group of believers. So come, play a part. There's room for mistakes and messes and art. Who cares if there's not many takers? We're doing it for the makers.
Hey everybody, welcome to the For the Makers podcast. We are so excited you are here. Just to give you a little bit of an overview, we are a podcast that inspires artists to tell their stories. I'm your host, LB, and I'm also here with my co-host,
Rachel Gifford.
Hey. This is our first podcast ever, if you can't tell, so we're a little bit nervous, but it's going to be great. We're so excited.
It's exciting.
Yeah.
This is going to be awesome. Episode 2, but just full
that's
disclosure,
this
is the first one that we're
recording.
Yeah. It's great.
Yeah, so we have a new episode coming out every second and fourth Friday of the month, because everybody knows that you clap on the 2 and the 4.
Not the 1 and the 3.
Not the 1 and the 3.
But
So just keep on the lookout for that. We are really excited to bring you this podcast, and hopefully you like it. Hopefully you're inspired by it. And so without further ado, we have an incredible friend of ours on our podcast today, Miss Rachel Lind. We love her so much. So Rach, will you give us a little bit of a intro to who Rachel is?
Yes, I'm going to do a cold reading of Rachel Lind's bio. Okay. Rachel is an actor-writer based out of New York City. Originally from the Great Pacific Northwest, we love the PNW. She grew up loving theater and telling everyone about it through song and dance, whether they asked for it or not. She is the recipient of a KCACTF Irene Ryan Nomination and has trained with the Second City and Upright Citizens Brigade. Recent acting credits include Maria in The Sound of Music, The Baker's Wife in Into the Woods, and her solo shows I'm an Only Child and The Julie Andrews Tribute Show, which I am obsessed with, that solo show. Okay. As a writer, her credits include the Twilight Zoom with the Second City Chicago, her plays Taylor Swift at a Bar and Men in Khakis, and several screenplays ready to be produced. Netflix, you can call her. On the side, Rachel loves coffee shop hopping, leading worship, and watching the Sandra Bullock filmography. Wow, yes. Her goals are to be in one of the Knives Out films and to see Emily Blunt win the Oscars she so rightly deserves.
Correct.
That is the best bio ever. Rachel, thanks for being here.
So glad to be here. I'm obsessed with the theme song. Sounds like Mary Tyler Moore.
Oh my God.
It sounds like Mary Tyler Moore. I was like, I heard, gentle listener, for the first time, I heard their their theme song while they're playing it. And I was like, oh, Mary Tyler Moore.
Rach, did that seep in through your subconscious?
I think so.
Was that like a childhood thing? Like,
okay, wow. That just, my entire body just got warm.
It's true though. As a fellow, Rachel and I are very big fans of the Mary Tyler Moore show, and so I was like,
Mary Tyler.
I do have on my phone a full recording of Rachel Lind and Rachel Gifford dancing to the Mary Tyler Moore show theme song.
I do have to say really quickly that I was shopping for Christmas cards this Christmas, and I was at a store in Chelsea, and I found this Mary Tyler Moore Christmas card, and I had to purchase it and send it to Rachel for Christmas because I was like, this is so niche, like nobody else is going to get this.
I got it in the mail when I was at home in Seattle, and it was the best gift ever. I was like, this is, you're a real one.
Rachel, we're so excited to have you and to be talking to you today.
So excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Dude, for the gentle listeners, as you just said, which I love that. I will be stealing that.
Please do.
How did we meet? How do we know each other?
I went to college with Kayla Grizzard, who is one of the founders of this ministry called The Hang. And so I got connected to The Hang through her, and therefore met Leah Beth and Rachel through that, just by going to a few events back in the early days, back at that hotel.
Yeah.
In by Carnegie Hall.
Well,
so
we were children
we were
floundering.
Children.
We're still floundering, but not children anymore.
No. Yeah. But yeah, so Matt, and then obviously Rachel and I have the Pacific Northwest connection. So we really hit it off from there. But yeah. And then we have all in the theater world have mutual friends, and you figure things out. So yeah, I would say that's the first time I got introduced to you both and became friends.
The rest is history, as they say.
Lifers now.
Yeah, exactly, for lifers. So for both Rachel, as a reminder, but also for you, gentle listener.
This episode is going to be titled Gentle Listener.
Yeah, exactly. The way that this is going to work is we have a grouping of 5 questions that we're going to ask everybody, the exact same 5 questions. And we're just going to see what people's responses are and then just let the podcast do what it does, which is going to be a really cool way, I think, to connect with people and get to know some of our friends better. And hopefully for you as a listener, you get inspired and you get to maybe ask yourself the same questions and dig into why you love what you do. So first question, Rachel, what got you into the arts? What got you into this crazy business that we're a part of?
I mean, weirdly enough, I've been asked that question, like, oh, how long have you been doing theater? Like, frequently recently. And I kind of always, I'm like, oh, in the womb, like it's always been in me to do this. But I mean, literally, there's never been a moment where I didn't know that I wanted to do this in some capacity. Like I started taking dance when I was 3. I had older cousins that did dance and theater. I'm like the second youngest in my line of cousins. And then so my oldest cousin, she did dance at the community theater. So like my parents would take me to go see her in like Camelot and Brigadoon and, name the musical that the community theater did every summer, Hello Dolly, Yes. So like I'd always been seeing theater in my life or dance or was part of it. And then when I was 12, I was in a community theater production of Annie, obviously.
Let's go.
I was July. The pivotal solo of Who Cares What They're Wearing.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it did not sound that good.
I've seen the clip. I'm pretty sure.
You have, because I showed it at my Julie Andrews show.
Yes.
She thought she was Julie Andrews. Anyway, but when I was in Annie, there was the girl that played Annie and a couple other people had just come back from New York, and they saw the original cast of Wicked. And they were like, they were showing us their pictures. They'd seen that. I think they'd seen Avenue Q and like one other Broadway show. And I don't like that clicked in me of like, what do you mean there's like a place I can go and like get paid? Like I can do this, but like for the rest of my life and get paid for it. Yeah. Like I know I want to do this for the rest of my life, but like I can make it a thing.
Right.
So it was like them talking about seeing Broadway shows and seeing Wicked and like seeing all of that. Like it was like, oh, I need to go to New York and do this. And so I think like the next year I went to New York for the first time when I was 13 and saw Wicked.
Oh my gosh.
And crazy story. What was wild is I saw Megan Hilty and Shoshana Bean were my Alpha Bung Glinda.
Yes.
And they're both from Washington.
Right.
And
Oh
so
my
I
gosh.
literally sat there and I was like this could be me.
Yeah.
Like I
Wow.
watched those two and I was like, they're from Washington. They're on Broadway. I'm seeing them on Broadway. I could do this. Like, whoa.
Wow.
Yeah.
And I got to do, I don't know how my dad got some backstage tour of Wicked. So I got to go backstage and like meet Megan Hilty. And so like that, like I always knew, but like that trip like solidified it for me. I was like, this is what I want to do. Like I went home and cried and was like, I want to be there.
I love that.
Yeah. So it's just, I've always had the arts. My parents were very like, because I'm an only child. So they were like, let's put you in as many activities as possible. So
Yeah.
I was always, doing something creative and something, in that genre.
Yeah. That's such a cool, the origin story of one Rachel Lend.
Yeah.
The fact that you got to see Shoshana Bean and Megan Hilty really just, I'm really trying not to be jealous. Because like,
it
That
was pretty
was
cool.
my first Wicked too.
No way.
Yeah. Because it was like a big deal when they came to the Northwest.
Because they were on the tour
They
too.
were on the tour.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's
those two together, a dream.
it was an absolute, they were incredible.
Yeah.
If I'm ever having a bad day, I will unashamedly go to YouTube and watch Megan Hilty's
Her Thank Goodness,
and just cry.
She's the like Kristen Foundation, but like Megan Hilty, there are bridges you've crossed you didn't know.
Yeah.
Where she just absolutely belts it to the heavens. You're like, all right.
Yeah, exactly. You're like,
yeah, I know now.
For sure.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, without a doubt. Why do you think that the arts are important?
I mean, they're so vital. I mean, the corporate answer is that it's like the team building and the camaraderie that comes out of it.
Right.
But I mean, like it does. I'm doing the Artist Way right now with a group with friend of the podcast, Ellen Collier.
Yes.
Yes, a friend of the podcast.
Friend of the podcast.
Gentle listeners.
But we're doing it. She started, her and her roommate started an Artist Way group because so many people, I had tried starting it and didn't do it. But like, there's so many aspects of it where I'm doing it now and I'm just even digging into deeper parts of just who I am as a creative person, how it applies to different parts in my life. But saying that it's like everybody needs to tap into that part of themselves. Right. Doesn't matter what job or industry. And like, we were all created to create.
Right.
And like creating doesn't mean painting or singing or dancing. It's literally like you executed a like business deal in a creative way. You executed, or you did X, Y, you're an architect and you're building a building. That's creativity. Name the industry. You need team building. You need communication. You need, all of those aspects about creativity and working together and the arts and you look at like arts therapy and how that helps so many people and how people use the arts to be able to do healing. And for me as a Christian, like I look at music as a second language and how it's like it's even a prayer language. Like when you look at how music flows, like there's the speaker named Dan McCollum who talks about the heart vibrations and how like, for example, I think if I'm remembering this correctly, that I think it's some choral piece. Anyway, it was a choral piece where the composer orchestrated it to heart vibration. Like he set the tune and he set it to heart vibration.
Sounds so.
I think it's Handel's Messiah. Is it that one?
I'm gonna Google it.
It's someone.
Right now.
There's a composer who set when he wrote it, he set it to the heart vibration so that when the music was played, it was in the same vibration as your heart.
Wow.
So that would hit you that way. So like, there's just so many. Anyway, I could go on a tangent about your spheres of influence and how there's so many different aspects of the arts that heal in so many different ways and bring about community in so many different ways. My heart is so much for community. And so like my biggest thing that I love about doing theater is doing life with people, like getting to do, like you do the show together, you get to collaborate with each other, but you get to do life together. Like, so that's my big thing is just like, the arts bring about community and bring about that connection.
Right. Well, even like Rachel and I were talking the other day about like the development of, music therapy and how even more so now recently music has become, or art in general, whether that's painting, whether that's dance. Dance is becoming a huge part of therapy too, of just like healing your body, getting your body to move, listening to music. It invokes something deeper in us than just like, oh, that was a pretty song,
Exactly. And like, honestly, the biggest thing that in the Artist Way that's been coming up with me, not to sound like I've been genuinely loving the Artist Way, but when I hear people talking about it, they're like, I'm doing the Artist Way. And it's like, but like, listen, I'm gonna be that person. But like a lot of the exercises, it's like, it'll say like, what's something you love that you aren't doing anymore? Like what's like, it's always some artistic thing. Like the question, it's always coming up for me, dancing, going back to dancing.
Oh,
so it's just been so interesting because that's like, I did dance a lot when I was a kid, but then stopped because of sports, weirdly enough.
Yeah.
Literally my dance teacher was like, you have to choose between sports and dance. And I went sports.
Wow.
Because I was about to jump into going on point in ballet or like, and then basketball practice was interfering. And I'm like, I like basketball.
You're like, I'm going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm really passionate about sports.
Listen,
that
Troy
is
Bolton was too. So
that is my fun fact. Like when people like do like, fun fact about me, it's like I played basketball for 9 years growing up. So it's like that was like my jam.
Let's freaking go.
Yeah.
Let's go. But like it's been interesting that like dance has always been coming back, and it's been something that has intimidated me because my body, I'm not connected to my body in the way that I was when I was a kid, but I love doing it as a kid. So it's like even just like like the Lord's just been like, go back into it. Go
right.
like, yeah, you're going to look like, well, I went to Ellen's dance class this past Sunday, and it just like, no, I wasn't getting the technique right, but it was just like, I was having so much fun, and the way she taught it made me not want to compare myself to everybody.
Totally.
So it's also that partnership too of, again, when you have an environment where you're like, let's just dance and understand how our body's moving and understand like what that looks like and getting back into it.
Totally. Yeah. I think there are dance classes available where people are just wanting to allow the opportunity for people to dance how they move. That's the thing is like, we have another friend of the podcast, Josh Dunn, and he is obsessed with that sort of movement. Yeah. A la like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child, all of things like that, where it's not necessarily like, now do a triple pirouette, but it's like, okay, let's see how you move about the world, and then let's just grow that into like rhythm and movement naturally. I think that's so cool and comforting too, as a non-dancer situation. Yeah. I had another question that was pertaining to that, but it left my brain.
We'll circle back if it comes back to it.
We'll circle back. Oh, I remember. Okay. Community. When it comes to like building community and like having community, I was talking with a director recently who was like, you're not building a network of people, you're building a community of collaborators. And I love that. Loved that.
That's good.
Because that's the truth. And I was talking to another person the other day who was like, I just told her, I was like, the reason I want to direct is because I want to work with my friends. Yeah. I want to hire my friends because they're great and they're talented and they're incredible collaborators. I think Lin-Manuel Miranda is a fantastic example of that. He has worked with the same people. He worked with the same people in the Heights that he did on Hamilton. And I think that just building that community of collaborators is so important.
I think that mental like switch is so important too, because I remember when I first moved here and I was thinking about, I need to network, I need to meet people, but I was getting so nervous about quote unquote networking because it felt like this official thing that I had to do. And then this is so funny because I babysat a lot when I first moved to New York, and through that, I just started naturally meeting people. And then through the hang and a lot of people that I knew from the hang, and I was just naturally meeting people. And suddenly I was getting opportunities that I didn't think I was going to be getting. And I had this like aha moment of like, okay, so networking doesn't have to be this like terrifying thing. It's really just meet people and ask them questions, like be curious about their stories. And like, that's how networking happens naturally. And it ends up becoming just building a community. And then it's amazing the people that you end up surrounding you. And you just like, I don't know. I just love that.
That is what I love too about like divine appointments and like the idea of like when you're just open to building community rather than networking for the purpose of this is going to build my career. Right. Like I know this is a big thing I've been because I didn't used to be this way, and then now I turned 30 this year, and so it's like this idea that time is against me. It's all of a sudden my mind went, well, now I really need to network for myself because if I don't, and it's like I hated it. Like I've always not been a fan of that type of networking, but I would find myself start kind of going that way out of this like lack of trust of God of like, you're not doing this for me, so I'm going to have to do it myself. Right. And it's like something that I've been trying to reverse that mentality of like, no, like you want to know the person because you want to know the person. You don't want to do that. That's like this pressure that you're putting on yourself to do that. Right. And like something I used to work at Schmackery's, which is a bakery in Midtown that it's their focus is for Broadway people because they're in the theater district, and they used to partner with BCEFA for Broadway Cares, and they would do this thing called Broadway Bakes, and I organized it one year, and I saw what it meant to value somebody by their influence or like put a monetary value on that person. Because like there was one day we had a partnership with Dear Evan Hansen because it was running at the time. This was 2017. And we weren't able to get Ben Platt, but we were able to get other members of the cast. And like two of the members that, like the two people that came and worked with us on Broadway Bake, like I had seen them in other shows and that had deeply impacted me, even though they were like basically featured ensemble in Dear Evan Hansen. But because it wasn't Ben Platt, people did not come. And I'm like, these people are like, they have made an impact in the theater community just as much as Ben Platt has.
Right.
But it was because of like the monetary influence that Ben Platt had at the time. Like people, like it was this whole, and I was just like, I don't want to value artists that way ever. Right. Like I get that it's a business, I get that it's an industry, but like seeing that firsthand and seeing that in that capacity was, and like having to like navigate that with me with scheduling too, like, cause I had to run it. It was just like, ooh, I hate this. I hate putting monetary value on artists and like building that community and building that collaboration. And like, there's so much more worthwhile and like soul fulfilling collaboration when it comes from that organic, like you were saying, Rachel, that organic, like natural community building, that natural relationship building. It's like how we want to get together as humans anyway.
Right.
Exactly. Like we want to I want to do life with you. I don't want to just know you because you're going to get me from A to B, or like you're going to make, it's like, yes, I want to work with you because I feel like you're going to make this project like amazing because you're going to bring your aspect of it. Right. Like you're going to bring yourself to it. Like that's why a big reason why I started writing is I wanted to do stuff with me and my friends. I wanted to write stuff. Like a show that like impacted me early on was I Saw a Disaster on Broadway. Yeah. And it's like a parody. It's like a parody of like 70s disaster movies, but it was this guy, Seth Rudetsky, wrote it. And he was just like, I wanted to cast all my friends in it. And it's like all these like Broadway people. And it's just like, and that's like it doesn't have to be this very serious like work of art. Like I'm going to, change the world with my art. And it's like, yes, we want to change the world with our art, but we can change it in a humorous way as well.
Right.
Like,
without a doubt.
That show impacted me because it was like, oh, this is what I do with my friends unpaid. Totally, like, and I want to do it where it's like we can all get paid and get Tony nominations. Like, please, like that's the goal. I want to do that.
Right. Exactly. Totally. Yes. So wisdom. Yeah. What were you going to say, Rach?
Well, you said that's my goal. And I was like, and seeing Emily Blunt win the Oscar.
And see Emily Blunt. The fact that she's not even been nominated, like, just hurtful.
Emily, if you're listening to this podcast, we love you.
We're sending prayers and petitions your way.
Amen and amen.
Yeah. Okay. So Rachel, we also want to know what keeps you grounded as a human.
I mean, I can't not say my faith. Yeah. Like it's just the core of who I am. I have known Christ my whole life. My parents were Christians and I went to a private Christian school growing up. And I think the biggest thing for me has been making my faith my own. Like, especially when you grow up in the church or grow up in a faith, it's, hard to not see the world through what other people have told you. Totally. So especially in the pandemic, I really had to stand in front of God and be like, I don't trust you, and make that relationship my own and sit with that and sit with some disappointments. And I'm still working through it and still working it out. But I mean, there's been things I've seen and connections I've been able to make. And even just the journey of moving to New York is just very much, I can't attribute it to anything else but the Lord. Right. And so much of my process and so much of just my humanity and how I move about this world is with a consciousness of someone else being able to guide me through it and someone else being able to help me work through it and be able to ask some questions and try to find some answers or at least be pointed to a direction where I'm able to find some answers. Yeah, that's a big part of it. Community, huge, huge. I think the pandemic, again, being isolated, I was in New York for the entirety of the pandemic. And the biggest thing, and you both were there as well, we would walk to the park outside and sit in a 6 foot apart circle. And that's what kept us sane. Yeah. Or I did.
Oh yeah, please
go there. We know exactly where you're going. Please
no, but I had 2 roommates at the beginning of the pandemic, and in May they were like, hey, we're leaving. We're moving back home. They were going to move anyway, but they were just like, we're going to do it now. And so I was going to be by myself in the apartment in May of 2020. And I was like, all right, I got to do something to keep myself sane and occupied. So I had seen some other friends do this where they did Zoom readings of screenplays with like their friends. And I was like, oh, that'd be really fun. And so I found the screenplay of Clue online. And so excuse me. I sent just like on Instagram was like, hey, I found the screenplay of Clue. If anybody wanted to do a Zoom reading, would you be down? And like, a good number of friends were like, yeah, I'm in. And so I did it and I was like, does anybody want to do it again? They were like, yeah. And so I found Mean Girls. And that's when, these two, shenanigans came in. And then it just kind of caught on, and we did it May through December of 2020. We did it like either every week or every other week. And that was just like so much fun.
It was
like kept the sanity,
joyful.
and like people went all in,
Yeah.
which I like did not really expect.
Yes, another one of friends of the podcast, Mr. Andreas Schmidt, was the Tony Award winner of
Andreas and friend of the podcast, Savannah Ogren.
Correct,
Yeah,
correct.
Like they went to town, backgrounds, costumes, props, cinematography.
Yes.
But like people, I think because we were still stuck inside and wanted to express creatively.
Right.
Like, I mean, I think the most people we ever had, I think, was 25 people on a, and that was for Elf. And like, I mean, we did like, and I would just take requests and I just would put on Instagram and be like, hey, like who wants to read? And like people would come out of the woodworks, like friends from New York, friends from college, friends I hadn't seen in a while from Seattle. And like now, like I teach summer camps in Seattle. And so like my Seattle friends will be like, oh, hey, like Andreas or, Kent or this person, like now I can mention all these people and you like, now we all follow each other on Instagram or like
we all know each other.
Friends of friends would message me and be like, hey, my friend is by themselves in Chicago. Can they do a reading? And I'm like, yeah. And so like, we've all connected and met people from that way. And so it just was like such an unexpected community builder that I just did out of my own sanity of like, I'm going to be by myself and I need something to do. Who wants to like, who's down to clown?
Right.
So like, that was just like a huge thing that kept me grounded was like to do the thing. Like, even if it's silly, even if it's like for no money, even if it's just for fun, like the joy, like my word for this year has been joy.
Yes. Come on.
Because I mean, like there was so much time where I was just in the pits, just so like, not wanting to do anything. And the Lord was like, do something with joy, do everything with joy. And so joyfulness grounds me as well.
Right.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
Joyfulness grounds you. Yeah. It's such I remember that time. I mean, we all have went through the pandemic so differently and experienced it so differently. And so, but during that time, being able to get on a Zoom call and see, not only like have fun with my friends, people that I loved, like but also see their faces and laugh with them. Like I remember we did Twilight.
Oh my God.
And I will never forget, like, we all went so hard.
People went hard, and that was one of the, like, we all broke so many times. And
so many
that was
times.
Genuinely one of the funniest readings.
Oh my gosh. And like, we had done a video of, oh my gosh, I'm blanking. Rachel and I had done a video with our other friend, Kayla Grisard for Hocus Pocus. We just did, like we recorded
It was amazing. It was epic.
And in full costume. It was so fun. And
Rachel made an appearance. Rachel Lind.
I made a voiceover appearance.
There she is. And I remember when Rachel Lind sent out the casting call for Twilight, I signed up, and I got Rosalie, one of the Cullen sisters. And I went into Rachel's room and I was like, Rachel, where's your Sarah wig from?
Where's that blonde wig?
So I like put on this ridiculously long blonde wig and like everybody did makeup and
People went all out.
Oh my gosh.
Our friend Kat, she was Alice, and there's a scene in the movie where Alice has like, she draws where Bella is. And our friend who read for Bella did not know that Kat had drawn something, so she just is like doing it and then holds up the picture and everyone just busts up laughing because she holds up like an actual drawing. It was like stuff like that where like people would like unexpectedly do like makeup, like friend Jackson like did like full like blood vampire makeup for Jasper.
Or
like we did an Addams Family Values reading, and Andreas was Fester, and he did like a bald cap before he had shaved his head. And like he had done full makeup, and I got a wig because I read for Debbie and had this like short blonde bob wig, and like everybody like went all out for like Jackson had like a full thing for thing. Like,
Right. Yeah.
oh my gosh. It just like people would like just like pull stuff out, and it was hysterical.
Right. It just shows, I think it really shows like how much in desperate times, especially as artists, we still crave to be creative. And like how being, even if it's in silly ways, even if it seems not important at the time, those are memories and those are things that are vital and extremely important to keep us creative and keep us in community.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Okay. I want to ask you this next question because I'm just so excited to hear the answer. So Rachel, what person, place, or experience has shaped you the most creatively?
See, listen, you all sent me this question ahead of time, and I had told myself when Leah-Beth and Rachel asked me to come on this podcast and like talk about creative experiences, I was like, I'm not going to talk about Stephanie J. Block. I'm not going to talk the whole time.
I literally
about Stephanie J. Block
predicted this morning. I said, LB, Rachel is going to say Stephanie J. Block.
And here's the question. And like they sent me that question. It was like, what experience? And I went, oh man, I'm going to talk about Stephanie J. Block.
Yes.
Well, and listen, I did write a few other things because so I will go into the story in a second because at the moment of this recording, I saw at the beginning of February, I saw the Kennedy Center production of Sunset Boulevard starring Stephanie J. Block. I am a massive Stephanie J. Block fan.
Yeah.
I love her so much. We were talking there was a group of us that went to Kennedy Center to go see it. And we then said like, if you could be birthed by two artists, who would they be? If your artistry like were birthed by two people.
Yeah.
Right.
And like the top one is Tina Fey. Like just overall is Tina Fey, but like musical theater, it's Carmen Cusack and Stephanie J. Block.
Good choices.
Like
great.
my
Moms,
two, and those are the two people along with Cynthia Erivo. Like those three gave performances. Like Carmen Cusack and Bright Star is genuinely my number one because I saw Bright Star, I saw it on a whim. I didn't really know anything about it going into it. It was still my first year having lived in the city, and I saw her fully worship on stage during At Long Last.
Yeah.
Like I felt the presence of the Holy Spirit so deeply in that room, but she was deeply in character. Like she was in character. She was singing, like she was in the moment, but like I felt like this moment of worshiping. And I was like, that's what I want to do. What she is doing in the show, what she's like, her acting, everything about it, that performance. I was like, I am so deeply moved by her that this is why I want to do what I want to do, is seeing her do it. And then I saw Stephanie J. Block in Sunset Boulevard. And again, I am the biggest fan. I love her so much.
Stephanie, if you're listening.
Boy, Stephanie, if you're listening, I'm not a stalker, I promise. I would love to work with you and would be an amazing collaborator who would bring something to the table.
Collaborative community, baby.
Collaborative community. When we do Miss Congeniality, the musical together.
Let's go.
I'm here for that.
Can you, hers, Kathy Morningside, don't talk to me.
Oh my gosh.
Don't talk to me. I've been journaling about it. I've been journaling. I love that. I'm like,
the Lord, you've been speaking to the Lord.
Janet, my dream role is to play Grace in the Grace Hart or Grace Lee Freebush in the Miss Congeniality musical.
Correct.
I'm like, that is genuinely my dream role.
Yes.
And I've been like putting some prayers and petitions and some stakes on the ground into that.
Yes, 100%.
And I was like, oh, that's where we can work together. Great.
We'll pray into that with you, my friend.
We'll put some oil of anointing on the door.
Yeah, exactly.
But I do very much look up to her career, and the roles she's played are very much similar roles that I want to play. Same with Carmen Cusack. And those in the musical theater world, those two, I'm like, I look at your careers and I look at what you've done, and that's what I want to do. And with Stephanie J. Block with Sunset Boulevard, I love Sunset Boulevard. This was my third production that I've seen of it. I love that score. So I was just excited to see the production in general. They had like I think it was a 20-piece orchestra, so it was gorgeous.
Wow. Oh wow.
Yeah, gorgeous sound. And so, but I like Stephanie J. Block walked onto that stage and she disappeared. Like Norma Desmond was there.
Yeah.
Wow.
She did. I jokingly say that it was her senior thesis and she was winning her Irene Ryan, but like it was very true. Like she went into that with the gusto of a senior thesis, and she had her beat work done. Like I walked away from that show going, this is the importance of doing the work.
Yeah.
Like when you do the research, when you do the work, when you put everything into it, when you put your passion into it, like it shows. Like the biggest moments that impacted me were her in-between moments. Like, cause I had watched her do an interview where she talked about playing the fragility of like, and somebody could say something and she could switch. She could fall into the other side. And you saw that, like, it was beat by beat. You saw her escalate and then try to de-escalate and then escalate more. Like you saw the through line so clearly. And like, again, that she fully she was Norma Desmond. Yeah. Stephanie J. Block not to be found. Like she was in it. And so it's like those two. And then I got to see Cynthia Erivo do Color Purple.
Yeah.
That just deeply, deeply moved me. That whole production was gorgeous, but you walked in there and like, I had known of Cynthia Erivo just from, she had done Sister Act in London and I had seen some of the work she'd done on YouTube in London. Right. But just that moment you were like, oh, a star is born.
Yeah.
Like she was already a star, but like, get ready. Yeah. Like, yeah. And as we've seen,
I mean,
she's just incredible.
Yeah.
Her voice is just one of the most beautiful, trained, gifted. Just her placement and everything is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
So those 3 performances just like really like either inspired me to be a better performer, inspired me to do the work, or just inspired me to be like, wow, like art like this can happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Performances, creativeness, creative aspects of this, like this can happen. But yeah, those were the.
I think it's 3. So impressive when you talked about how Stephanie J. Block enters.
Stephanie Jeanette Block, Princess of Genovia. Stephanie Jeanette Block Arcellus, Princess of Genovia.
Right. But that like she entered the stage and then like she was gone.
Oh, gone.
And I feel like it has to be so difficult for those like stars when you're like a star caliber. Movies too. For sure. Yeah. When it's like, I feel like people will usually go to a movie or a show and think, I'm going to see Stephanie J. Block in this.
It's exactly how I would do it.
So it's hard for that. I feel like it has to be so difficult to like, I don't know. It's like, it's just, I mean, we've talked about how, like the power of an unknown cast can be really important in a show. And I mean, we saw this with like The Office, right?
Right.
Like how that show, it was like it was a bunch of quote unquote no names, but like then it just like took off and people bought it because all these characters were so believable. And you weren't watching Steve Carell in The Office.
Right.
Like you
saw Michael Scott.
Right. You were like, he is Michael Scott. And then it's kind of like the opposite where it's like, it's so impressive to me that Steve Carell has gone on to have the career that he has, because it's gotta be hard for like people to not think of him as Michael Scott. But it's just like both of those flipped whatever way. Totally. I just have such respect for when there's that moment where, and like, what a cool moment for you too, with like this person that inspires you so deeply to get to experience not only just like watching them do their thing, but then to experience forgetting that it's them.
Yeah. Well.
I literally knew certain moments, because I just love like With One Look, As If We Never Said Goodbye. Like I knew certain moments in the score were going to wreck me. I had to hold in sobs after With One Look, because I was like, I need to be able to see what's going on.
Yeah.
And then at intermission, I like fully broke down.
Yeah.
Like I'd been holding all this, like getting to witness this in, like, again, friend of the podcast, Jonathan, we went with another friend of ours, and he came up, we were sitting in different sections. He came up and was like, are you okay?
And you were like, obviously not.
I was like, I'm doing great. And it was just like this beauty, like you crave those moments in theater or art where you go see something and it reignites that fire.
Right.
It reignites that passion. And it's like, I remember my first year living in New York was the Hamilton year. So it was Hamilton, Bright Star, Waitress, School of Rock, Witness Uganda, like Dear Evan Hansen was off Broadway that year. And like, I was like, I can't believe that was, it was like every theatrical experience I was seeing was like impact, disaster, impact. Right. And so it's like, you like to have those moments where it's just like, so it's like, I've been having those moments lately. I saw the revival of Parade this week and it just deeply impacted me, seeing Sunset, I saw Parade at City Center, and I've seen Into the Woods a bajillion times, and like that deep. So seeing theater that just like deeply impacts you and reignites that fire, it's like you kind of like search for it, and like to have those moments are so beautiful.
Right. Yeah. I think too, as artists, as actors ourselves, as directors, producers, writers, I think I find myself craving, the older I get and the further I get into this business, the more I crave those moments, because it's nice to be able to just go in and just get lost in the art.
Absolutely.
Get lost in the story, where I don't think about, I'm not sitting there going, oh, creatively, I would do this, or directorially, I would try this.
Or like, oh, I want to play this role, so I'm going to watch how I would do it.
Right.
You know?
No. It's just pure awe. Like those little girls who, like, my first show that I ever saw in Dallas was the tour of Beauty and the Beast. And my parents got us third row tickets, and my parents told me, they were like, we thought you would be so bored, like we never thought you would be engaged.
Oh my gosh.
But my dad talks about how like I sat on his lap and was just like in awe the entire time. And I think that as adults, like we still crave that awe. Like we want the awe.
That was me. My parents took me, one of my first like professional shows I saw was Secret Garden, and I was like, I need to be in this world. And like it was my grandma and my mom took me, and my grandma is a big gardener. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want this. Like you're just so like, it was just such, it just, I remember like drawing about it in class. Like I saw a Secret Garden and I need to do
drawing about it.
Just like, I was like, it's like, what's that? I heard someone crying. Why are there candles? Cause it's a ghost.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's like you just, and like, that's like when, you know, I teach summer camps in Washington State, and I do ages 8 to 13, and just to see that joy in those kids, and to be like, I like to be able to try to instill, like, keep that joy, keep that childlikeness, keep that, like, and it reminds me to go back to that part of myself of that childlike joy and just receiving things, not trying to like, yes, there's moments to analyze and see how it impacts, but like, just to like what you're saying, I'll be just to like be caught up in the beauty of it, and to find something that just deeply moves you and deeply just like reignites that artistry.
Right.
It was really sweet before, or as I was getting prepared to move to New York, I was working on like budgeting and all that stuff. And my dad told me, and I will never forget this, and I think about it often in just as an adult and working in the creative world. He was like, you need to account for inspiration in your budget. And I was like, wow, oh my gosh, like that's not it. Cause in my mind, I was like, yeah, but that's like extra. That's like fluff whenever I can. But when you think about as artists, like we often need to reconnect to that joy that we had when we were kids. Yeah. And so I think about that every once in a while. Like if I'm feeling like super down in the dumps about like how I've been doing creatively, sometimes I'm like, well, maybe how long has it been since you've seen a show and just gone, or even just like, how long has it been since you've listened to like a new album, or like asked somebody for a good book to listen to, or blah, blah, blah.
Or like gone to a museum or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Which this is a good segue into the last question. So our last question, and we'll do kind of like a little rapid fire, is what book, play, or film do you think every person should read or watch?
So my genuine but silly answer is the film Waiting for Guffman.
Okay. I love that is your answer.
That's like my more silly answer, but it for those who have not listened to who have not seen Waiting for Guffman, it is a mockumentary about community theater. And it's done by Christopher Guest, who did like This Is Spinal Tap, Best in Show, all those mockumentaries. And it literally is about a community theater putting on an original production called Red, White, and Blaine, because they're in Blaine, Missouri. And it's for the 150th anniversary of the town. And it's the whole movie is about, and it's got Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, Parker Posey, Fred Willard. Like it's like stacked. It was came out in the 90s. And it's just like, if you've done any kind of theater, if you've done any kind of like community thing, you know,
Right,
and
right.
but I I think everybody should watch it just because it's literally one of my favorite movies and it's so funny. But it just like, it brings you back to that like community theater, community thing of like the small town, big dreams type thing. And like most of the film, like the film is improvised. And so it's like, you see that side of it.
I love that.
Yeah.
But like, I also love The Actor's Life by Jenna Fisher. I think like, especially if you're a creative person, you should read that. There's this book called Top of the Rock, which is, it was written by, I think, Warren Littlefield, who was one of the programmers at NBC during the must-see TV era.
Whoa.
So it goes from Cheers to Will and Grace, and each chapter talks about how that show got, like how it got started, how it got made, how it came to NBC. And literally each chapter, it's a different way that show got on NBC at the time.
That's so cool.
So it's just, it's so, I read it and was just so inspired of like, for example, like Seinfeld, it started, the reason why it was, they put it on NBC was originally, it was 4 episodes and it was considered a variety. Like they put it in the variety category and they played it during the summer. Cool. And then like, so it was just like it was like a loophole of how they were able to air it.
Wow.
And like Cheers was different than Will and Grace, was different than Friends, you know, was different than Frasier. Like Frasier was a spinoff of Cheers. And so it's like each chapter talks about like, oh, it got on because it had an influential director. It got on because it had, you know, it got on by a fluke. It got, you know, it got made by X, Y, and Z. So it just is so inspiring that each show is very different.
Right.
And it's just the idea that like there is no one path to getting to where you want to be.
Yeah.
And it even talks about like the side on like the network side and the corporate side of NBC. And it talks about different aspects of how it was affected. But then also too, like if there's like an artist or even just anybody, you know, a CEO or a artist or a writer or literally anybody, any field, their autobiography, if you want to just know their process.
Yeah.
Like I'm about to start reading Viola Davis's biography, autobiography. So, and then I read Dave Grohl's autobiography and it was just super interesting. He's the drummer, or he started Foo Fighters and was in Nirvana. I read his autobiography and just how music impacted his life.
Yeah.
Wow,
and different eras of just his life and his influences. And that was just an interesting perspective in the music industry.
Right.
And,
Totally.
and just how different aspects of going from Nirvana into Foo Fighters. So
man, that's so cool.
Wow.
yeah. So just any type of like either like I think always just like what connects like Actor's Life, Top of the Rock and the autobiographies is it's seeing how the process is different for everybody.
Right.
So it's like, I think just recommending that anybody read something that gives you that encouragement that there is no quote unquote one way. There are certain things that there are steps that will help you, or certain things or places. Like obviously if you want to do theater, New York is probably a good place to be, or film and television, you know, LA or, you know, name the place where there's probably going to be more of that thing there, but that there is no one way, that you could be anywhere and do the thing that you want to do. Like that there is no one like singular path to doing it and being inspired by somebody else's journey, and that it is a journey, you know, that it's finding the friends along the way, you know, it's so any piece of text or film or, you know, play that is going to be able to, where you see the journey, you see how things connected when people didn't know how they connected. Right. Yeah. And then just waiting for Guffman. It's a good time. It's a really good time.
I love that that's your answer for film, was Waiting for Guffman. I need to watch it. You've been telling me for so long to watch it.
You have to watch it.
Yeah, I need to watch it. Man. Dude, we love you so much.
Love you.
We really do.
We really do. I love you. I feel like we could talk for another like 3 hours.
Yeah.
We truly could.
We really could.
Rachel, will you share your socials just so people know where to find you if they want to follow your creative endeavors?
Yeah, for sure. I'm on Twitter at Rachel G. Lind, Instagram, Rachel Lind NYC, TikTok, rlind92. I did not make this easy for myself, making it the same username.
I like it.
If you try to search Rachel Lind on the internet, you might get Anna Green Gables. So I am not the Anna Green Gables one.
Wait, I didn't know that. That's awesome.
There's a character named Rachel Lind. Yeah. Anna Green Gables.
Oh, of course.
Hilarious.
But yeah, that's Lind, Lind, not Lynde. So yeah, those are my socials. Website rachellind.com.
Cool.
Awesome.
You guys hit her up. She's the best.
She really is.
Collaborate. Build that collaborative community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You guys, thanks for being with us today. Rach, any parting words before we head out?
I don't think so. Just another thank you to Rachel Lind. NYC.
Thank you.
We love you so much. We'll see you guys next time. Thanks for listening to the For the Makers podcast. There are a few ways you can engage with us. Join our team of dreamers on Patreon for exclusive content you can't get anywhere else.
To get updates and find out more about Seated Productions, you can find us on Instagram at seated.productions or visit our website at www.seatedproductions.com. Until next time, listen well
and tell stories.